I've been reviewing productivity tech for almost 2 years now, and at this point it's become pretty difficult to impress me. However, that is exactly what WorkFlowy has achieved, and in this video, you're going to learn all you need in order to have this powerful minimalist tool function as a setup for getting things done. Now you can either follow along with the video and build your setup as you watch it, or you can import this setup from my website for $4.99 and get started right away, save you some time. Your choice. Let's dive into the video now to see how it works. Like the whole software, settings are also pretty simple. You can set up your name and email address. You can customize the design. I'm using the dark theme right now, the system font, and I have blue for external links. I have image thumbnails size set to big, embed YouTube videos, embed tweets, and I have turned on all of these other options, which basically allow for a more extensive feature set. Even though some of them are experimental, I haven't discovered any bugs while using the software. So just turn all those on, don't delete your account, and then let's look at capturing. Capturing is obviously something we'll do into the inbox, which is the first node in this system. It's at the top. For that reason, it's the first step in GTD. What you can do is add items to this inbox manually by just going to the bullet point list here, pressing enter, and a new bullet point will appear. Add any new item and be on your way. Don't think about it until you're actually going to clarify. There's a bit more intuitive way to do this as well. Let's say you're currently on another list right now, but something comes up, you want to quickly add something to the inbox. You can just press plus right here on the left-hand side, and it will also automatically transport you to the inbox. And again, you can add a new idea in here. Now, beyond that, unfortunately, capturing options in WorkFlowy are pretty limited. There's no email integration. There's no social sharing. There's no mobile widgets. There's no quick add button that is outside of the app. However, you do get a web clipper, which I've installed here. It's a Chrome extension, and I'm currently on my website. So let's see what happens when we open the extension by clicking on it. You'll see that you're presented with the title of the page you're currently on, and it asks you to clip here. Now, where's here? That's going to be wherever you position your cursor and basically enter a new bullet point for it to land into. So let's do that. I've added a new one to inbox, which is obviously at the top since it's the first node in the system. I press clip here, and there we go. It's a clickable link with the title of the page, which is good. But you can actually do more. And let's demonstrate that by selecting a piece of text on this page. I'm just going to select the tagline as well as the title here. And I'm going to now go to the extension again. I'm going to go to a new bullet point here inside of the inbox. And again, I'll press clip here. But as you can see, this time, in addition to the title with a link, I can expand this item here, and it will contain the exact text I selected, which is awesome for clipping quotes that you see online, pieces of information in articles that you want to highlight, or anything else. And going back inside of the inbox, here's how it looks. Before we take this system for a test drive and actually clarify an item from the inbox, we need to make sure we understand the infrastructure that Oliver has here inside of WorkFlowy. In this build, I've heavily relied on nodes and how they can be positioned anywhere. They don't have an inherent hierarchy. Instead, you can create the hierarchy, which I really like. Main nodes, which you can create from the home screen if you're recreating everything, are obviously inbox, next actions, projects, agendas, higher horizons, and reference. Inside of projects, you can add specific nodes delineating various areas of focus. For example, for Oliver, I have a work node. I have a standalone items node that doesn't have to have a related project or area of focus. But I also positioned the someday maybe list in here. And anything else you feel needs to be parked under projects, you can do so here. And what I've also done is use not the standard bullet view here, but instead shift to the board view. These views in WorkFlowy are super powerful because they can demonstrate the very same data in all kinds of different ways. It doesn't change the underlying structure of the data, but it makes it more intuitive depending on what kind of view you're going for. And in my opinion, the board view makes the most sense for this, but this is all personal preference in the end. You can also go with a to-do view, again, the bullet view, a dashboard view, which creates these sort of widgets. But I found for this specific section of the build, boards makes the most sense. For agendas, I also went with the board view. In this case, delineating the specific individuals that Oliver interacts with on a regular basis as the primary node inside of that, and underneath specific talking points that we can check off with them. And for you, obviously, you can add anything here as well, other individuals, but you can also take it a level deeper if you do want to go community first, individual second, talking point third, because like I said, you can just position anything in any way you see fit. Let's add an extra talking point here for Carla. Ask about salary, for example. Now, if we navigate to Carla's individual node here on the left-hand side, we can now go to the beginning of the bullet points, press tab, and now it will be positioned underneath the original one. Now here it doesn't necessarily make sense, but again, if you go community first, individual second, talking point third, or even further levels of hierarchy, that's all possible. For higher horizons, I again went with the board view, in this case containing goals, life vision, life purpose. One goal that Oliver has is to get promoted to Chief Operating Officer, the company he works at, and he also has a specific deadline for this goal, which is Saturday, December 31st. Now, you can actually add a date by just starting to type something that looks like a date. And here it started to prompt this option. When I hit DEC, I can select hit tab to set date, and now the date has been set. And whenever we now search for an item inside of the search bar, select the specific date here, and for example, go with 12/31/2022, it will show this item because it's now been associated with that date. So it looks like just simple plain text, but it actually has a taxonomy function inside of WorkFlowy. For vision, run my own business, for example. And Oliver is a very organized person, so he wants to help people become organized as his life purpose. So this is a matter of defining. This is where it's really truly a note rather than a to-do. As you can see, there's no checkbox as well to accentuate that. Let's now start clarifying some things from the inbox, and we'll do so by making use of tags in WorkFlowy. Let's take the item here at the bottom, which says get dog food. What you can do is press hash, and it will either present a list of tags that you already have in your system. If you've imported this system, then you will have this menu already present. If you don't have it, you can start adding tags that make sense based on how you clarify, and they will be saved as tags as well. Now, since this is GTD, we'll first want to ask ourselves, is this a next action? Is this something we can start doing now? The answer is yes in this case, so we'll add the next tag by just pressing enter. Now, next up, we'll want to ask ourselves, what kind of context do we need to be in order to perform this task, so that we don't see it when we're at a place or with a tool that we cannot perform the task inside of anyway. This is an errand, so I'll press E, and there we go. The context tag errands presents itself. I press enter, and here we are. You'll also notice that they are colored differently. This is my personal rule. I always color contexts blue. Obviously, you can add any color you like. These are going to be saved to the tag by pressing the arrow down, and here you can select one of these. I believe these are 10 or maybe 12 colors. Next up, this is optional, but you can also ask yourself, how much time is this task going to take? If you're somebody who likes to really time block and estimate based on that. And again, let's enter a number here. This is going to take us 20 minutes. Go to the store, go back. So we have a tag for that as well. And this is colored orange. And again, optional, but some people like to also use the required energy level as a way to clarify the task. Low, medium, or high. And in this case, I'm going to say it's medium energy. And now we have a beautiful selection of tags, and having all these different colors associated with the type of tag also helps you visually see whether you've completely clarified something or whether something may be missing. But now we still have this living inside of the inbox, so we need to move it out of there. The easiest way to do that is by pressing slash, which will present a menu. And you'll want to skip a lot of these options here and instead go down to the actions menu and go to move to. You can also press M and it will obviously show these options based on what you type. I press enter now. And in this case, we'll want to add this to the standalone items list that we have living inside of projects. So we just have to type that. And here it presents itself already. Press enter. There we go. The item's been moved. It's out of the inbox. And if we press view, we will now see it inside of this list. If we go to projects, we have kind of the board view. It's also living in there now. One thing we forgot to do though, which we can still fix here, is change this to a task, which we can do by pressing this circle here inside of the card and then selecting change layout to do. And now you can see inside of the projects view, it is also become a to-do that we can mark complete. The next item in the list is travel to Panama. And this is a bucket list item for Oliver. He's always wanted to go there, but it's not in the books right now. So instead of adding all these tags, which exist for actionable items, this is not an actionable item right now. So we'll just go to move, press enter, and select someday maybe, press enter again. It's out of the inbox, and it's now in the someday maybe list. Let's take a look at this final item here. This is a fantastic YouTube channel. You may have heard of it. And say that this is something Oliver wants to save as reference material. For that, we have the reference node, which serves as the reference cabinet, so to speak. I'll go through these in a later section of the video. But there's also a section named YouTube channels, useful YouTube channels that Oliver can go to if he wants to. Not only that, he also has a tag for the specific topic that it's related to. But because if we already have so many tags related to context, action states, energy level, etc., it can get pretty messy if we don't have a second level order inside of tags. That is why any reference tag starts with a dash in my system, after which you can add any subject matter and save it as a tag. In this case, it's productivity. So we're going to press enter. It's yellow, which is the tag for any reference item. Obviously, you can add multiple reference tags to it as well. If it has relation to multiple subjects, then we press move to enter, search for YouTube inside of reference, press enter. And now we have saved this in our reference cabinet. Now this is again personal preference as to how you want to organize this. These different views will have the items appear in different ways based on the size of your reference cabinet, the kinds of information you store in here. You'll perhaps want to make a different choice, but this is what I've gone with here. Pro tip, which I've saved inside of reference under data and templates, is to add a specific item named tags in there to save all your tags. Because if you have them only inside of tasks, then if you complete or delete the last task with that specific tag, let's say we have only one task that is in office room 1, we delete it, then the tag will also get deleted in its entirety. And that's something you'll want to avoid, because then you'll have to add it manually again, risk mistyping it, add the color again. That's a hassle. So this item just lives as a sort of menu for tags, for actions as well as for reference, a sort of collection, because we don't have the option to display them on the left. So this is the second best thing, but it does the job. Reflecting is all about looking back on what you've done, as well as prioritizing new tasks for the week ahead, for example. Having a tool that is easy to navigate from all the horizons of focus through specific projects, checking on how your goals are progressing, is really essential. And I think WorkFlow does a fantastic job at this. As I mentioned before, with these nodes that are structured in any way you see fit, they allow you to quickly and easily see what's going on and get a bird's eye view. What's even cooler is that you can use templates. Now, under reference, I have a node named data and templates. And if I expand this one here, there's also one for weekly review. This one is quite simple. Of course, your weekly review is probably going to look more extensive. I know mine does, but it's just to give you an idea of what it can look like because it's all about getting clear, getting current, and getting creative for the future. Cleaning your inboxes, reviewing all these actions, projects, etc. is a part of that. But you'll notice that there's a copy template button in here. That's because we've turned this into a template. Now I'll remove this tag very quickly right now. If I add it back again, you'll see this button appear, and you can do this for any specific node, for any specific task, bullet points, whatever it is. Now I'm going to press this button, and I'm going to actually go to the weekly review log, which is another node under reference, and I'm going to press plus here, and I'm going to press paste. And now you'll see a menu appear which says new weekly review. And from here, it'll copy over the template without affecting the original one, of course, and we can do our thing here. Obviously, we can also timestamp it if we want to and give it a specific name. Let's say today is December 1st. You can add the date here as such, save it, and now we have a log of our weekly reviews. You can imagine this piling up. And if we need to look back on something, we can easily find it again. That's just one specific example of how templates can ease your workflow. For reviewing, obviously, the weekly review is a major part of that, but there's also engaging, where templates can play a role. But before we dive into that in more detail, of course, engaging is perhaps the thing you've all been waiting for, to see how does that actually work, because so far we've looked at projects, we've looked at next actions and how we can tag them with context, and that's nice and all, but how can we, instead of looking at this from the classical project-based view where Oliver would go to work, just navigate to the work list and see what he needs to do, clean the office, find paper supplier, plug in computer screens. Well, what you're going to do first? Well, what GTD of course says is don't go by project, go by context. Now, one way to try and do this is by navigating to a specific tag. So we can, for example, press email, and we'll see every task that has email. However, what you'll notice with this example task here is that it's actually not a next action. If we navigate to the project it belongs to, we'll see that there's actually another action that needs to be done first, hence it is marked as next, and the other one isn't, so it's kind of a sequential project before we can attend to email. But if we press next to see what are the next actions, and I'll just boot it up from the home screen here. This is actually important too. If you search for anything, it will only search within that node or its underlying hierarchy and not above it. And home is obviously the main hierarchy, so I'm just going to search for next here to get an overview of all the next actions we may have in our system. This is a bit better, I suppose, because we have a list of all the next actions, and we could just look through this, select this task, go to room 1 to room 2, but it's still not really context-based. And we're even seeing this template thing here. But don't worry, if you've downloaded the template from my website, then there's already a built-in context section under next actions. This is going to be your main dashboard to run things from. And as you can see, it gives you all these options based on the various tags that we've set already, including time estimates, energy, and of course context. But what's different about this is that it's not just the tag you're selecting for. You're actually selecting for tasks that have both the next action tag as well as this specific context, time, or energy. So let's look at an example here and press office room number 2. And here, as you can see, once we press that, we see 2 next actions that belong to different projects. The first is clean room number 2, which is part of the larger cleaning the office project. However, there's also one that says plug in computer screens, which doesn't have an associated project, so it's kind of a standalone action within the work focus area. Both of these are things Oliver can do in room number 2, and it would have him run around needlessly if this didn't appear grouped together and he might miss it. That is exactly the power of combining these next and context tags. You avoid seeing tasks that you cannot do yet due to time or dependency constraints, but you also avoid seeing tasks you cannot do right now anyway because you're not in that context. If you haven't downloaded the template, you're going to need to do quite a bit of work to make this work, but I'll show you how you can do it, of course. The thing is, you'll need to enter a specific search query inside of search, and this is exactly what it looks like. You'll need to add these quotation marks, and in between those, you'll add the tags that you want to select for. This will effectively operate as next and room 2, not or, but and. And you'll also see that I have added minus tags. This is that one item in reference that has the collection, which you'll want to skip. So this exact combination of search strings will have this result appear. But then how do you link to that? Well, what you can actually do is save the search. However, it's not through conventional means, unfortunately. What you can actually do is go to the URL bar in your browser and copy the exact URL after you've entered the search. And that is the URL you'll want to copy and then store it underneath the context node. And I'll show you an example here by navigating to the context node, going to one of these links and pressing the arrow, which will allow us to edit the link. And here you can see, for example, Office Room 2 has this exact URL as the link. And fortunately, this is not linked to a specific account. These URLs are not that unique. So as long as you're logged in, this is the exact URL of the search string. And effectively, you've saved the search. You can rename the link to the context and then store it underneath this dashboard. So obviously, you'll have unique context. You'll want to edit this if you've downloaded the template. If you're making a new one, you can obviously add them from scratch. And I've applied the same principles to these time and energy estimates, but you can take this as far as you want to and add any combination of tags or searches for that matter and save them as a search using this method. Lastly, you can also look at time-bound tasks or create to-do lists like I've done here, which again relies on the search functionality. In this case, the today search. You can also search for specific times, as you can see here. So the search feature is quite rich. It saves them as unique URLs, and that is exactly what allows you to build up such a dashboard, for which, again, I've used the dashboard view here. And that is how the system works. This is how you take action. You just go to your context list, you navigate to the context that you've saved. If there's something there, you do it. In this case, there's nothing in here, so we go back. Here we have a task that belongs to this context. If you want to, you can obviously add a time association to it, like I've done here, which will add it to the today list now that we've just set up here. And if you want to access your actions even more quickly, you can, for example, go to a context here, pressing the circle next to it, and then pressing the star, which will favorite it, and it will pin it to the left top corner, similar to how you can do it with TickTick or Todoist, and just navigate to your context list from there directly. You will have to click on it one more time, which is kind of this link. That is the only unfortunate part here, but it's still super quick, as you can see, and you can do the work that needs to be done. Now, to get started with this setup, obviously you can rebuild everything, and that's the free option, but it will take you some more time. However, if you follow the link in the description, you can go to my website and download this template, which will be saved as an OPML file. It's an unusual extension. I hadn't heard of it before, but what you can actually do is open this with an app like Notepad, which you should have on your PC, for example. So I'm going to do that now. And then you'll be greeted with the entire setup in code form. It's quite a lot. But all you'll have to do is select everything. In this case, I'm going to do Control A, then Control C. Then you can navigate to your WorkFlowy account. I've just created a new one here. It's completely empty right now. Press plus, and then paste everything. And just like that, everything we just looked at, including the saved searches, is all there. If we go to the menu here, we can see it's here. Now, the only thing you will have to do is change the layout to whatever you prefer. If you remember, I prefer the board view, for example, for this action state, and there it is. So that's the only work you'll have, aside from obviously editing everything to your personal needs, your personal tasks, etc., filling it out. But that's how quickly you can get set up with the template. I hope this video has given you a good impression of what WorkFlowy is capable of and that you're excited to give it a go. Their free plan is quite capable, but if you upgrade to Pro for $4.99 per month, you get unlimited lists, automatic backups, as well as some advanced theming options. WorkFlowy, while it's not perfect, again, it's super exciting to see a minimalist tool function so well. I think it has a lot of potential if it improves upon its capturing features for one, and if it would add things like reminders to have an even more powerful experience when it comes to engaging with your tasks, having them show up at a predefined time or location even, so that you can focus on what needs to be done at the right time, at the right place. Leave your experiences or thoughts about WorkFlowy down in the comments. Excited to hear what you think of it, and I'll see you in the next video.